Okay, so with the Detroit Red Wings season now being over for a little bit, we've seen some stuff come out. We've had time to kind of sleep on how the season ended, think about and reflect back on the season. I know some people were calling it a failure because we didn't make the playoffs, but I just wanted to talk about kind of my opinions and how the opinions of other people have seemed to change in the weeks after, now that we've really looked back on it and looked at the bigger picture of this season and the future and what it holds for the Red Wings. And I know the start of this season looked really promising. I mean, at the start, we were in a divisional playoff spot. We were one of the hottest teams in the NHL. Alex DeBrincat was on just a tear, and he was playing amazingly, and then he just kind of, once December, January came, he kind of hit a wall. He became inconsistent. He wasn't really bad. He was still all-star level, and I still think his play throughout the year, when you look at his whole body of work through the year, was still an all-star caliber season. It's just, it got a lot more inconsistent. In the start of the season, in, October and November, you could rely on him to win you the hockey game, game in and game out. But then as the season went along, he just kind of teetered off. He wasn't that top echelon guy that he was at the start of the season, which, I mean, is kind of expected. You don't really expect a guy to keep that pace up for the entirety of the season. But he was kind of looking like the #1 guy. Not necessarily in terms of all around being the best hockey player on the team, but in terms of just going out there and getting you a goal when you needed it. It really looked like he was the guy that was going to get that done. After DeBrincat kind of tailed off, it's Larkin who really picked it up. Somehow Larkin wasn't an all-star this year. I think, again, this is just me, I think he played at an all-star level. He was amazing this year. Not only on the ice, scoring goals, making good passes. He led the team in goals this year. His 69 points this year was 10 off of his 79 last year, but it's still the most goals he's ever scored in a season. And he only played 68 games, and he was just 10 points off of his 80-game season last year. He earned being the captain, especially after just battling through injury after injury and, just hurdle after hurdle, and really being a good leader in the locker room on and off the ice. Everybody respects him. Everybody loves Larkin. I know some people call him soft or whatever. Those people are weird. I don't know where they come from. I mean, to me, when you go out there and you get injured like that a lot, like time after time, he's dealing with a new injury every day, and I get it. It's the NHL. Everybody plays through injuries, especially down the stretch. Unless a guy's gonna die, he usually is gonna make it out on the ice and play a full game. But to see Dylan Larkin have what happened to him happen on and off the ice, I find it very impressive that he managed to stay consistent for most of the year. And I think he really showed everybody what a great leader he was by leading by example. You preach toughness and you preach all this, but the only way to really get guys to buy in is to do it yourself. And Dylan Larkin exemplifies being tough. I know he's not out there always laying the big hits, but he's definitely a leader out there on the ice. I know some people think different. I don't know what kind of hockey those guys are watching, the people that say that's different. I watched, I'm pretty sure, every game this year. If I didn't watch every game, I watched almost all of them. There were very few games that I walked away from saying Dylan Larkin was the problem. At the end of the year, when Dylan Larkin was kind of injured and Alex DeBrincat was in a really bad slump, the guy that stepped up big was Lucas Raymond. He led the team in points. He had a 30-goal season, a 40-assist season, ended with 72 points. This was his breakout year, and it came down the stretch. If he could replicate what he did in the last few months of the season over the course of a whole year, we're looking at a guy who's going to be an all-star. I mean, we got to remember the guy's 22 years old, turning 23, and he just had a 70-point season. That's really impressive. I mean, this is one of the best young players that we've seen in the last few years. So having those three guys being able to step up at various times in the season is great. But once they figure out how to really mesh together and put together a full body of work over an 82-game season, which I feel like they can do next year, this team is going to be really dangerous. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was the goaltending situation this year for the Red Wings, because it looks really weird. I mean, you had Ville Husso, who was off to a bumpy start and was really inconsistent, and then he got hurt and never got back really after that. You had James Reimer, who was not bad, but again, he was kind of like Husso, where he was really inconsistent, so it was hard to see him as a number one guy. And then you have Alex Lyon, who's probably the best goaltender on the team right now, and even he is a little too inconsistent for people to really see him as a number one goaltender who can go out there and give you a full season's worth of playoff hockey. Now, he has shown to be a really good performer down the stretch, so I think he could be the number one goaltender going into next year, especially if he keeps on stepping up in big moments, because he's definitely a guy that as the moment gets bigger, he gets better and he doesn't crack under pressure. So I could see him being the number one guy. He just has to get a little bit more consistent. But he also didn't really play a whole lot to start the year, so maybe if we give him the number one or number two spot from the start of the year, he will be more consistent. But I don't know. It's really going to be interesting to see what direction Steve Yzerman goes with the goaltending situation. Now, I know we're all disappointed with how the year ended, but compared to last year, we are many steps ahead of what last year's team was doing compared to this year. This year's team was on the cusp of being a playoff team. And, you know, we're seeing what's kind of happening with the Islanders in the playoffs and the Capitals in the playoffs. And it's kind of showing that, you know, overtime losing your way into more points to make the playoffs really doesn't make you produce any better once you actually get into the playoffs. So teams like the Red Wings, once they actually put it together and make the playoffs, they're going to be way more dangerous than the Islanders or the Capitals were this year. So I know I'm a Red Wings fan, I know I'm being biased, I know, you know, whatever. But I'm going to choose to look at this in a positive light, and the positive takeaway I have from this is that we are going to be way better prepared for the playoffs next year and possibly making it to the second round of the playoffs. Now, I get you'd rather be in the playoffs right now, but we still give a lot of young guys playoff-like experiences down the stretch of this season. They've been in big moments. So come next year, they have more experience that they can apply to in-game situations, and it's really going to help them. And I know Moritz Seider, a lot of people think that he kind of took a step back. It was just straight up, he played some of the toughest minutes in the NHL. So obviously he's not going to look like he's all that great when he's out there against the toughest matchup every single game. So I think that for him is going to be a great learning experience this offseason. He can recover, he can practice, he can improve, and next year he's going to take that and he's going to apply that to every game, and you're going to see him play much better than he did this year. Obviously, the Patrick Kane situation right now is not great. What he's put out on Twitter is not exactly encouraging, but I still think there's a chance that he can come back. And if he doesn't, guys, we've got a lot of great young players coming up through Grand Rapids and through other areas, other prospects. They're coming, and they're going to be really good. I'm excited to see those young guys possibly get a chance this coming year. Really, it looks like a lot of our team is going to be brought back for next year. I know outside of Patrick Kane, probably the other biggest question mark is Shane Gostisbehere. Because, I mean, he had a 56-point season, 46 assists, 10 goals, played in 81 games, and made a season-saving, at the time, defensive play on the blue line. If that means we're going to have to massively overpay him, I would personally rather let him walk and give that money to Moritz Seider and make another smart investment on a low-risk, high-reward defenseman in free agency, or see Simon Edvinsson be given that roster spot. Obviously, we all want Petrie gone. I think we can find a way to fill both Petrie and Gostisbehere if we let them go this offseason. You've got guys like Joe Veleno put together a good season. Robbie Fabry was actually able to stay somewhat healthy, playing in 68 games, which is a lot for him, and he had a solid season. Michael Rasmussen took big leaps, as not just on the offensive end, as he had probably his best offensive year of his career, but also on the defensive end, he was pretty solid. We were missing him down the stretch because of injury, but still, he had a pretty good year. Jake Wallman, I know he disappeared for whatever reason. We still don't really know what's going on there, but he still had a pretty good year. I mean, a lot of these guys put together quality seasons, and they really played good team hockey together. Now, again, the way the season ended, it was heartbreaking. I mean, just watch. I mean, we've all seen it, but just look back for a second on that David Perron game winner.
Scrambled, face-off, comes back, quick shot, scores! 3-3! David Perron! It's a tie game! David Perron has tied it up! Wow!
You believe this ridiculous comeback that's been going on?
I mean, stuff like that, it doesn't just happen. Like, those type of goals aren't normally scored. But he came through in the clutch and saved our season and kept us alive. It was down the stretch, I know. The 7-game losing streak after the 7-game winning streak, if we just pick up one of those games, we're in the playoffs. But those last 5 games where we just did enough to stay alive and we kept coming back and we kept coming back and we kept getting close to winning games or even winning games and just staying alive in the race, doing stuff like that is still good. This team should make the playoffs next year. I know we've said that for the past 2 years, but this next year, I think we can all really feel it. We're going to make the playoffs. Anyways, I'm Limitless Polls. Please give me your opinions. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of varying ones, so it's going to be interesting to see how this video is received, but I'll see you guys next time.
But you can mix right, nigga, put it in the blender. Hell yeah, I'm Wingstop. Jump on the chicken tender. It's like the beef from energy and water like timber. Hey, turning, looking like dinner. It's like I got the bad boy or girl.